Today we're looking at three forms of a quadratic equation. The first is standard form, the second is factored form, and the third is vertex form. All three of the equations you see here are really the same quadratic function, but it has been written in different forms. Each form reveals something different about the function. The first we'll look at is standard form. In standard form, you have your x squared term, your x term, and a constant in that order. If we let x equal 0, we can substitute the variable x with a 0 and simplify it out to get y is equal to negative 12. And that's telling us that if x is 0, y is negative 12, which is a point on the y-axis of the graph of this function. This we call a y-intercept. So the standard form of the equation is revealing the y-intercept of the graph. The second form of the function is factored form. This equation is in factored form. This time let's let y equal 0. If two numbers are multiplied and the product is 0, that means one of those numbers or both of those numbers must be equal to 0. So to solve, we'll set each one of these equal to 0. X plus 6 is equal to 0, or x minus 2 is equal to 0. Subtract 6 and add 2 to get two solutions, x equals negative 6 or x is equal to positive 2. Now these points represent x-intercepts of the graph. One point is negative 6, 0, and the other point is 2, 0. So the factored form reveals x-intercepts for the graph of the quadratic function. The third form is called vertex form. So in this form, we're going to let what's in the parentheses x plus 2 equals 0. And if we solve that, we'll get x is equal to negative 2. Now why do we let x plus 2 equal 0? Well, if you want the lowest point on the graph or the highest point on the graph, then we want this binomial squared to be 0. Then what's left over will be either the lowest or the highest point on the graph, which is the vertex. So now that we know x is negative 2, let's substitute that back in for the variable x and simplify to get 0, square 0 and subtract 16 to get negative 16. So if we put in a negative 2 for x, we'll get out a negative 16. And that is the vertex of this graph, negative 2, negative 16. The vertex is either the highest or the lowest form, or the lowest point in the graph. So to summarize, we have three forms: standard form, factored form, and vertex form. All three of these forms are representing the same quadratic function, so all the parabolas are the same. But you will notice that each one reveals something different about the graph. The standard form reveals the y-intercept. The factored form reveals the x-intercepts. And the vertex form reveals the vertex of the graph.